Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before going on my presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Indah Karunia. I am from Economic Education Study Program 2017. In this video, I want to presentation about my research, and the title is The Effect of Fulfilling Learning Needs on Learning Outcomes with Learning Motivation as an Intervening Variable in Distance Learning for College Students. I have 3 points for background of research. First, there is coronavirus disease 2019 in Indonesia since March 2020. Second, enforcement distance learning in Jakarta since March 2021. Third, there are some different learning needs between normal learning and distance learning for college students. This research will focus on the effect of fulfilling learning needs on learning outcomes with learning motivation as an intervening variable in the distance learning period, whose main object is undergraduate student economic education 2019, State University of Jakarta. I have 4 questions of research. First, is there direct effect of fulfilling learning needs on the learning outcomes for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta? Second, is there direct effect of fulfilling learning needs on the learning motivation for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019? Third, is there direct effect of learning motivation on the learning outcomes for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019? Fourth, is there indirect effect of fulfilling learning needs on the learning outcomes with learning motivation as an intervening variable for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019? And then there are 4 the purpose of research. First, to know and analyze direct effect of fulfilling learning needs on the learning outcomes for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019. 2. To know and analyze direct effect of fulfilling learning needs on the learning motivation for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019. 3. To know and analyze the direct effect of learning motivation on the learning outcomes for undergraduate students economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019. 4. To know and analyze indirect effect of fulfilling learning needs on the learning outcomes with learning motivation as an intervening variable for undergraduate student economic education, State University of Jakarta 2019. There are benefits of research, theoretical benefits as a reference for similar research, and practical benefits for others to give more insight and knowledge about the topic. For university, provide information about economic condition in college and to be one of collection at college library. And in learning outcome variable, I use Bloom theory, said that the purpose of education are 3 domains: cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotoric domain. And so learning outcome is change that are driven by learning activities to achieve certain indicators of achievement. In learning needs variable, I use Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, said that humans are motivated to fulfill their needs in a hierarchical order. These levels begin from the most basic needs to the most advanced needs. So learning needs is needs that must be fulfilled by someone to be able to carry out learning activities. Learning motivation variable, I use McClellan theory, said that every person has one of 3 main driving motivators: the need for achievement, affiliation, or power. So learning motivation is source of energy or encouragement that causes a person to carry out learning activities to achieve learning outcome. There is some researchers related with this research to prove that relationship between learning needs, learning motivation, and learning outcome. This research will be conducted in June 2021 because researchers assess the most appropriate time to conduct a survey of undergraduate students of economic education 2019 based on the academic calendar of the Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta, and this research will conduct in State University of Jakarta. The address of State University of Jakarta at Rawamangun Mukaraya Street, Rawamangun Subdistrict, is Jakarta. Design method. This research use survey research method. Is a method that uses the respondent as the main sample in the study to provide the information needed by the researcher through filling out a questionnaire as a data collection tool. And constellation between variables, there are learning needs as x1 or independent variable, learning motivation as z or intervening variable, and learning outcome as y or dependent variable. Population on this research are 113 students, and sample in this research use proportional random sampling technique, and so the sample in this research are 87 students. In instrument development, for learning needs variable, there are internet quota needs, computer or notebook needs, smartphone needs, teaching materials, stationery, signal needs, conducive environment, headset, Wi-Fi. And then for learning outcome variable, use grade point semester 113. For learning motivation are interest in learning, tenacity in learning and doing assignment, solve the problem by itself, future orientation, the desire to try to solve the problem, tendency to take on challenging tasks, the desire to achieve the learning success target, and want to have appreciation in learning. In this research, I used Likert scale in questionnaire, validity test, 2. Measuring instrument used to determine whether a research instrument is valid or not, reliability test, 2. Measuring tool to prove whether an instrument can be trusted. This research used primary data, so that researchers collect data directly using Google Form. Google Form will be contained instrument items that are valid and reliable. For data analysis technique, using software Statistical Product and Service Solution or SPSS and Microsoft Excel. Test requirement analysis are normality test, heteroscedasticity test, linearity test. 2. Hypothesis test are t-test, test coefficient of determination, descriptive analysis, and path analysis. Path analysis is a form multiple regression statistical analysis that is used to investigate causal models by examining the relationships as direct or indirect effect between dependent variable and independent variable. And how to calculate path coefficients? First, make a calculation equation for the substructure coefficient. 2. Create a correlation matrix. 3. Looking for the correlation coefficient using the product moment formula. 4. Calculate the inverse matrix in notations. 5. Calculate the path coefficient using the matrix calculation formula. I think it's enough for my presentation of my research. Thanks for attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.